quickly, let's go over roll call. Stacy Jones, Crystal Pilkington,
Here.
Angie Curley, Caleb Shepherd,
Present.
Christy Rushing,
Here.
and Luke Heidholt.
I'm here.
All right, and I'm here, Carlos Lopez. We have a quorum, and I don't know who I need to talk to get Christy's name spelled right and put her last name on
Don't say
there.
your first name on. Where though? It's on here.
KrSty, and then Rushing instead of Rodriguez.
Where are you looking? On the website.
On the agenda.
In your header.
Oh, in the header?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. KRSTY?
Kristy.
KR.
Is it T-Y?
And what's
I
the
thought it was
other one?
in the
Rushing,
T-I-E.
that's her last name, Rushing.
Sorry.
They've got Bermudas.
Well, this is just left over from before and so.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
No
is that
problem.
it?
Yes, ma'am, that's it, thank you. Might need to make an amendment to the agenda if we could add other order of business between revenue of 3 to 5 year plan and, before adjournment. I think we're gonna need a motion to do that.
Make a motion to add other business to the agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
alright, all in favor? Okay,
Would
yes.
you like that to be a standing item? and
Yes,
everything?
ma'am, I apologize, when I sent it to you, I didn't put that in there.
No worries. Now, if you don't have anything, you just skip over.
Yes, ma'am. It's just there, just in case I forget to put something on the agenda, like other order of business. Okay, so we got the roll call done, I don't think we need to approve the agenda, right? So, alright, so let's get into the director's report. That's all you.
That's me. Alright, so if you wanna follow kind of along on my board report, we just finished soccer. It went really well. This has been a rainy season. We had to make up 2 Saturdays worth of games, and we actually made up, 1 Saturday worth of games on a Thursday and Friday evening, and it went okay.
Yeah.
The days are a little bit longer, so it didn't get dark. It just got a little dark on the last game, but we made it without having to worry about turning lights on, which was good. And then summer ball is underway. We have started practicing, and games will start in June. We have 402 registered athletes. I was looking at the schedule today, and I think my first week of games, there will be approximately 38 games going on the first week, so. And then, something that we're tossing around the idea of adding is a skills and drills basketball camp. You guys know we've done skills and drills football. It's been pretty successful. It's a 3-day, evening, like an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the age group. And then you have, community volunteers that come in and teach skills and drills. Lisa Jadwin has, mentioned wanting to head it up for us, and we're gonna, after I get this kind of over with, we'll start working on that. I've talked to a couple basketball manufacturers that can do mass basketballs at one time, because we'll have to have balls for each participant, but that can be their take-home thing so that they can be working on the skills that they're learning at the camp. We already have a business that wants to provide those balls, so that's good too. And if we can think far enough in advance, we can actually start doing basketballs so the basketballs we'd have to get now would be stamped with a logo, and like, you know, skills and drills or whatever, and it could eventually wear off, but we know far enough advance how many we would cap this at and how many balls we could buy in advance. It's a lot longer turnaround time to get them, but you can get it actually in the rubber mold itself, to where it's like yeah, it's not engraved, it's like
Right.
the actual design of the ball would be the logo, or whatever color we wanted, whatever design we wanted to do. So that's kind of cool too, to get that information. We also have summer park camp. It's a little earlier this year. It's gonna be June 10th through the 21st from 8 to 1 p.m. In the past, we have gone until 5, but we took the kids to the pool, and it was during a much hotter time of the year. It was more towards the end of July. So we moved it up to where it's not gonna be quite so hot. And we also had to find some new leaders, but we're taking one of the pool managers who is a teacher, and she's going to lead the camp for us.
do you have any, students who may have got that certification who might still be interested?
Yes, I already have another person that's gonna assist her.
Very cool.
We do not serve lunch, we asked them to bring their lunch, we figured we would do it from 8 to 1, we usually get there about 7:45, so people that have to be there at 8 can drop off a little bit early. We will use the splash pad quite a bit, usually we kind of stay away from that, because we'll be at the pool in the afternoon, but we can probably do the splash pad a little later in the evening when it's warmer and not chilly, but. Moving on to grounds and satellite parks, the Owl Brown lighting project, I keep getting updates from the electric department, we're missing, there's a piece to the transformer that we're still missing, all the wire has been ran, it's been too wet, there has to be a concrete pad poured down there, but we are not putting it up by the cars, that was the initial talks, is that it would go there, but I was very adamant that I did not want it anywhere that would block the view of vehicles, cause you always have a lot of vehicles that park up there to watch people play, especially if they're handicapped, they can't always make it down to the bottom of the hill. So they decided to put it at the end of the field, which is gonna be down by the creek. There is a flooding concern down there, so they are going to put it on an elevated concrete pad to where it would not be a concern, but those are things that are still in the works to do. Once that all gets finished and that piece of the transformer gets here, all they have to do is hook the electricity to the poles, and the company comes back and trains us all on how to use the lighting, because I think it's gonna be pretty awesome with turning it off and on with your phone. Very
Melissa,
excited.
do we
Yes.
have an ETA on that piece for the transformer?
I have not
Cause I
had
had
an
not
update
heard
from
that
it.
we were missing a piece, so.
Yes, we're still, yeah,
And it is on order?
that's what I was told.
So whoever you have in contact with these people, do you call them like weekly or?
Well, it's the electric department,
Right,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we had ordered all the
Message Josh.
pieces
Okay.
early on, right?
Yeah.
This is just a piece
And I
that
was
didn't come
initially
in,
told that it was March,
right, and then I'd heard June, and so, oh, trust me,
it's not the only thing that
no, it's
people
not.
are waiting on, so.
Several things.
Right,
Any electrical components right now for any project are ridiculous.
yeah, okay,
Ridiculously priced and ridiculous long lead time to get them in.
yes, ma'am, okay.
But yes, I keep checking periodically to
But
get
is
it.
Twice a
Is it
day.
the transformer itself or just a component?
It's a component that goes inside of it.
Okay, so can we, since we have the transformer, can we start building the pad, so?
Yes, so they were going to, but it's been so rainy
Oh,
and
fair.
wet that they can't get down there with the big trucks that they need
Fair,
to set it.
Will you also need access to the pad, like for a vehicle, or will a vehicle need
No,
Okay.
No, I mean, you get a truck there if something truly goes wrong, but it's not, I mean.
Right.
Yeah, you're not gonna be going over the trenches or anything at it.
Okay,
and there's access through the fields if need be, would be right on the other side of the fence. It's not
Okay.
be accessible.
gotcha.
Salem City Park, as you all know, the pool sustained significant damage during the April 18th hailstorm. I've sent you pictures, information. We did, put the RFB out, last week. You already have been? I went to our, Park and Rec Association and looked up all the different companies within the state of Missouri that I could get a hold of, and I called all of them to make sure that they were aware that this bid was open and that where they could find it, and if they had any questions to get in contact with me. Tennis courts, I wanna say thank you. I know we worked on it a couple meetings ago about the graphic that was falling apart out there. Action Graphics went out and installed a new sign and it looks really nice. If you haven't had an opportunity to go look at it, it really did give some new life out there, so
Good.
I appreciate them doing that for us.
And the tennis team, their group funded the replacement of the entire wood, so.
So they funded the wood and
Yeah,
then Action
everything on
Graphics.
it was like replaced it was all rotten.
Yes.
And that wasn't just the paint part, and then Action Graphics came in and put on their.
Put the graphic cover
Yep.
over it.
It looks good.
It looks really nice. The skate park, there's been some vandalism on it, repeatedly, so we keep going out and removing the vandalism. There's also a metal lip that's removed off the bottom of one that we're going to be looking into replacing. And the cracks that were brought up in a meeting were repaired. So so that has been taken care of. Pavilion, a big thank you to the construction crew. They replaced pavilion's roof. It was coming apart. The back, what is it? Is that right? Fascia? Part was coming off and they went out and inspected it, and when they looked at it, they said it needed a complete roof. Don't laugh at me for saying the wrong word. They replaced the whole roof and they did a really good job. It looks really nice. It's the first pavilion as you come into the park on the left-hand side, so. Pavilion rentals, still just a reminder to people, you can call 729-4811 and use extension utility. They are the ones that keep the calendars now. And then they give the information to me to get the placards up. A big thank you to Salem High School for their service day. They came out April 9th. We had a whole bunch of mulch, and they picked a lot of weeds and dug up a lot of dirt to get to the bottom of the weeds, and we mulched all the trees along the very front of the park, which there's a lot of trees up there.
Looks good.
But it looks really nice and they did a really good job. And then that's all I have for my report. The other piece of paper that's attached probably to my report for that,
Your
This-
park wish list?
my park wish list is for the 3 to 5 year plan. It's just some notes that I have of some maintenance things that need to happen and some things that you might not have thought of, but that we see every day that are issues that need to be addressed, and just to be thinking about when we make that plan. So, anybody have any questions for me?
No, I had a question about the roof, but I'll get into it when we get into the budget, when you get
Sure.
your stuff, but. Okay, you guys have any questions?
I had lots of questions about the pool stuff, but I
Yeah.
think that, I guess, is there a warranty that is associated to the pool? And not that we have to know all this, I know this is day-to-day operations, it's not necessarily what this board is for, but just out of curiosity.
So a lot of the warranty stuff that we had for the pool, I have a whole warranty book. The people that did the plumbing, the people that did the electric, the people that did the install of this, but most of those warranties were a year warranty.
Fair.
When it came to the liner, I did not find a warranty in my book for the liner.
Okay.
So I don't have the information on that.
5 years.
Yes, 5-year warranty.
And we're
It's
past that, right? Okay,
yes.
good. And then whenever, like, of course you call the manufacturer, just trying to get some understanding of just how operations work associated to big
Yeah.
things. When you called the manufacturer and they said, yeah, those pictures, like, that line's trashed, then the question is like, hey, can we repair it for a season?
So,
Or what's
The initial conversation, or I call Westport, cause that's my contact, that's
Yeah.
who we deal with, I'm not
That's
the
who
pool
did the
expert.
liner, right?
That's who
Mhm.
installed it.
Okay, very good.
So initial conversation, they were like, oh, well, I sent them the pictures, oh, well, you might be able to limp through the season, but then they called the manufacturer of the liner, and then got back to them, they were like, they do not recommend you patch it. Because they also asked us to see if it went through the membrane, and it did, so they
And so it's like damage to concrete or
It-
other facility
if
aspects.
we were to open it, well, I sent him, I actually messaged him a question asking that.
Uh-huh.
I said, can I have clarification as to why we couldn't patch it for this season, if insurance would cover it?
Yeah.
Because I don't wanna spend
Absolutely.
$10,000
For,
and then an additional $50,000.
and then ruin your insurance or whatever for the full
Right.
replacement, fair.
So I just asked for clarification, but I haven't gotten the clarification yet.
Yeah, I think that's the part that, like, I would guess I would be curious about is if there's some number out there on a patch that doesn't.
Right, and I don't
That
know if they
doesn't
just, so
kill
what
your
happened too is
insurance.
they wanted me to mark every spot on the
Mhm.
pool, and I told Dustin that, he's like, there's not enough tape. And I said, well, mark the general vicinity, like where it's at, the majority of it. And so he ended up just putting the painter's tape out in a straight
All the way
line
across, yeah.
and marking where it was. And I think maybe once they saw the
That's-
severity of it, that it was such a large area,
Mm.
that it wasn't cost effective to do that.
Right.
I also asked about a cover. I was like, so I've had a lot of questions as to why we don't cover the pool. And he said, we don't recommend covers for any municipal pool. He's like, if you have a pool in the backyard, you do it because you might have parties back there and you don't want kids falling into blah, 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 blah. And he said, and I'm a salesman. He said, I'm not gonna sell you something that you do not need, that would not benefit you. He said, hail, if you had a cover on it, that would not have protected it from the hail.
probably would too.
And I was like, well, that helps me, that helps explain it a little bit. And then other people ask, why don't you leave water in it? And our pool is not designed, does not have heated pipes.
Freeze.
It's-
Right.
Yeah, there's a freezing concern. Even when we winterize it sometimes, we have issues sometimes with some of the pipes down below
Mhm.
busting that we have to replace.
good.
So there's reasons for everything.
No, that's fantastic, and like I said, I don't necessarily deserve that explanation, but I appreciate it, cause it's, the only other question I have, just from the pictures that I saw from like what was presented through, the Alderman meeting.
Yeah.
And what you have in the packet, it is, like, most of the damage in the transition from the floor to.
Yeah, it was in the
Okay.
transition, but on the shallow side, there were some on the side wall. And
Okay.
then as you transition from the, like 6 foot to the 12 foot,
Uh-huh.
that decline had a lot because it was a bigger surface that was taking it. So that whole level, the decline into the deep end had
Had damage.
had a lot of
Okay.
fractures in it.
See, that's what I was curious, I mean, I knew that what we were seeing in pictures was probably some
Yeah.
of the major ones that it looks like, oh, there's no way that's holding water.
That's a lot of it. And even, so, you've been to the pool before and you've seen the gator slide,
Yeah.
the little kiddie feature
Yeah.
gator slide, and you know that beneath that, there's a pad.
Yep.
It's a squishy pad.
Yep, just.
It
wow.
had fractures.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm
okay.
like, that has padding under it, so you know when it hits that, it's gonna bounce off, but it created a fracture there.
Yeah, that's really, it's, I mean, I live pretty close to here, and the size of the hail is, you know, I lived 15 years in Oklahoma, I'd not seen hail like that
We've never seen it
ever.
here.
It was spiky and the size of my hand, so it was crazy. I had to get a new roof living right here. Other aspects of the park, the pavilions, roofs, I saw that just right out here, I just noticed the other day that one of the city lights was busted out, because of the hail damage. And I know that there's probably stuff all the time, but any other aspect of damage through the park?
We checked, I had my staff and we contacted Lloyd, the construction crew, and he came around and checked our roofs, and we checked windows and vehicles. But I
And-
didn't think to check the pool liner.
No, that's. I
And we
just didn't
checked
know.
the slide and the rock wall, cause I was like, dadgum, that rock wall is just, you know, plexiglass, or it's thick, but it could still, diving board, slides, they checked all that. and
But
didn't
no
see-
other
They did
damage
not
to-
see any other damage.
No vehicles or anything like that?
If you saw in the packet, I don't know if I sent pictures of it or not, but we have like a PVC fence that goes around the
Yeah, fair.
pitcher pump, it did
Yeah,
take some
okay.
pretty large chunks out of that.
Very good, well, thanks for the update of all that, I know that's,
No
like
problem.
I said, you don't owe that to us by any means, but it's,
I want you to know, cause I've had to do research on it too, cause it's like, I've had to learn just along the way.
well, I know that, I don't know if all the other board members, but I know I've had quite a few people ask, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And, not to say that we have to understand it, but we wanna give you as much coverage as possible
Yeah.
as well, because if our answer is, we don't know,
Right,
then it's like, well, what's she doing?
and a lot of people, like,
And I
they
want
don't
that to
attend
be-
the pool, but
They see, yeah.
they see it, and they see it being used, and it's a huge asset to the community, and, yes, the pool is concrete, but
No.
there is a liner, and it's not just a liner, below the liner is another surface of like a felt surface, that if you were to get water under that, then it pulls under it, and it pulls that liner away from it, and it would just cause more damage to the things underneath, so.
Very good.
Do they have any recommendations on how we could probably provide some preventative efforts? So I know we've never had one like that before, but it hells every year.
Yeah, that's a question that we can ask them.
I mean, I don't know if you have any idea.
You had suggested, like, if we, well, you don't always know which direction the weather's gonna come from, but if it's,
Right.
if it happens to be in those
Transition.
transition areas, maybe we could buy a type of weighted padding or something that could be in those areas.
Did they say maybe it was because maybe the age of the liner? Is
That was
why-
part of it,
Okay.
that as it gets older, it loses its, like, its,
Yeah.
Elasticity.
yes.
So maybe like if, when we replace it and we get a hailstorm next year the same way, because of newness, it probably won't.
Right, it shouldn't affect it according to what they said,
Okay.
but I'm not the expert.
All right. Okay. I had some other questions like as far as
Yeah, sure,
insurance stuff, but I'll wait till we get into what is it?
the budget.
Yeah, the budget. or
Sure.
after, so. Okay, cool. Thank you for your report. If nobody has any other questions, we'll move into, the budget approval.
Okay, so the city collects a 3/8 cent sales tax that can only be used for local parks. So just to look at the history of the sales tax history for the Parks and Rec Fund. Up until this past month, we have been seeing a downward trend in sales tax, but for May, we did see a jump. So year to date, we are around the same as we was last year. So if you look at the graph, 2024 is, where we expect to finish out this budget year. And then the next column over is the draft budget, where we reduced it, I think, like 2%, thinking, not knowing if we're gonna have to see an increase or decline in the revenue sales, so that's.
And I can add, that is something that we are seeing across the board for all sales tax, not just the Parks and Rec sales tax, but we are adjusting each of those down because we're seeing a slight decline, so.
So it's not just a conservatism, it's like maybe a speculation on
Yeah.
it being lower next year.
Right.
Yes,
But
and
it
if
is,
it's not, great.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's win-win.
Good.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, so this next slide is, just an overall summary of the parks budget. So the top section is revenues, and then it's broken out into columns, so you can see the past two history of what they did, and then the next column is what this fiscal year's budget. And then the next column is year-to-date through April 30th. So far for revenues, year-to-date, we've brought in $592,000. And then we project in the next column, we project to end this year at $713,000. So compared to what we budgeted, just slightly over, I think it's around 4,000 over what we have budgeted for. And then if we look down at the expenditures, so, year-to-date, we have spent $447,000. We anticipate to spend around $582,000. And that brings us a surplus of around $106,000. So, and then based on the draft budget, so again, the sales tax, we reduced it slightly, so around $8,000 compared to what we budgeted this fiscal year. So the right-hand column, you can see, that is a comparison of what this fiscal year we budgeted compared, and then the draft budget, so the changes. So if you look at, under the miscellaneous, there's $160,000 in the right column, more than what we budgeted last year. That's because of the pool liner. That's our, what we expect our insurance to reimburse us, around $150,000. We're estimating it's gonna cost $200,000, we don't know for sure yet. But insurance is gonna pay $50,000, so in that line, we budgeted $150,000 of revenues coming in for insurance reimbursement. And then there's, under that miscellaneous line, there's also some bank interest that comes in, so it's around $160,000 more than what we budgeted last year and within that line. And then looking down at expenditures, so, we expect, you're covering the number, sorry. Expenditures around $850,000, sorry. And then, in that capital improvement line, you'll see $216,500, that big jump is the pool liner, $200,000, we've got budgeted in there for the pool liner. So within the expenditures, so the main changes that, wanna highlight, we are requesting a 3% cost of living raise for full-time employees, plus a 2% merit raise, which will be, based upon evaluations and their performance. So Melissa will do their evaluations, and if they perform well, they could earn up to an additional 2% raise. I did within this budget decrease the pool staff, since we're only gonna be paying them for half of next year's budget. So I've reduced those lines. If you wanna scroll down.
The next slide.
The next slides. So again, here's a breakdown of all of that up above. So here's a breakdown of all the revenues. I just wanna focus on the right side of those major changes between the budgets. So those are revenues, we already kinda discussed the sales tax. If you wanna scroll down to the expenditures. There's the personnel, again, very two top lines would be our full-time staff. And then you'll see, like the lifeguards, pool managers, those are negative lines over there on the right side. So I'm reducing those, since we're only paying them half a year next year. And then if you'll scroll down some more, there's not a lot of changes within supplies and maintenance.
Can I ask a question really
Yep,
quickly?
yep.
If we were to happen to get the pool up and going
Mhm.
miraculously, not saying that it will happen, but where would that come from if it's not already written in the budget?
It would all be done by budget adjustments. Your board would have to approve
Gotcha,
the
okay,
budget adjustment and go before the alderman.
thank you.
And then if you scroll down, cause I don't really see any major changes, do we wanna go ahead and look at the capital improvement? Cause that's the major changes within
Yeah.
the budget, is for capital improvement lines.
We can look at it here, or we can look at it in the next documents, which are the capital improvement plan pieces.
Yeah.
And
We
that
can
has
just-
more details.
Within her capital improvements, she's, some pool improvements that she's requesting, and we'll look at it further in the next slide. 31,500 in pool improvements, then we have the 200,000 with the lighting. Then we have 20,000, or 25,000, budgeted for, park improvements, and then we'll go over the details within those lines in a minute. And then on the other uses, you'll see 38,300, right there. Starting this year, Sally is putting together a vehicle replacement fund for all departments. So based upon, what Melissa has, her vehicles and their expected life and replacements, we've kind of budgeted 38,000 to go to her replacement fund. So that's gonna come out of her budget.
So that's
this year.
vehicles, equipment, so think mowers, things like that, so
Right.
that we've got them on a schedule. And we're putting money aside every year for their replacement. So that when we get to the point where we've gotta replace a mower, we don't have to finance it. That's the thinking behind this. So
If
we've
you-
got the money in
Yeah,
place.
cause if you look a little further in the packet, like in 2026, it's estimated that we'll need to replace one of our mowers at
We'll
that
get there in a
point.
second,
Okay.
yeah. Are
So
you
just to
finished,
explain that.
Christie?
Yeah, I just
Let's
wanna say,
finish this
based upon the revenues and expenditures we have in the draft budget, and this does leave the parks at a deficit of 51,000. So the options are to reduce expenditures, or if you'll scroll up to the first, the summary slide. Yeah, go down to where the beginning fund balance. So at the beginning of the 25 budget year, we expect her fund balance to be 671,000. So that's, think of it as a bank account for the Parks Fund. You have that money starting out. So if you choose to use, you can choose to use part of that to offset this deficit of 51,000. And if so, that would leave your park fund at the end of next budget year, if nothing major happens.
And you're spot on with your budget.
Right, and Melissa's very conservative, she always comes out ahead, you know, like I said, unless an emergency happens, she's really good. That would leave your fund balance at 620,000, so. So it'll be up to you all to decide if you want to tell Melissa she needs to reduce her expenses or take from this fund balance. If you want, we can look at what's in that CIP budget to see if you all are in agreement with doing those projects before you make a decision on what to do here.
I had a couple questions on the upper sections of like just the expenses and some of the revenues coming in. I saw that like, one of the items is like soccer fees, like you're expecting, it looked like half the amount is expected in your
Revenues?
budget, in your revenue.
Look at the details.
I think it's like 21,000 is what we brought in and we're expecting 10,000 next year.
So,
But
I think it's on page 3.
Yeah, it's right
Yeah.
there, she's looking at it. You are on that.
yeah, no, I knew I
Yeah.
So right here is where he's looking at, Melissa. No,
And it could just be conservatism, I just didn't know if
I
there was an
do try to
expectation
conserve, I do try to conserve and like,
Cause we had a
I can
banger
already
year
tell
for
you that
soccer.
we
Right.
did, but,
Right.
baseball and summer ball is usually our biggest
Yeah.
season, and we're about 80 people short this year
Wow.
from last year. And I always try to prepare because of the way the economy is right now. It had been gradually increasing, but I was waiting for it to drop. Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it gonna plateau? Is it gonna go down? Because the way the economy is, if you have 4 kids and you're paying $35, that sometimes it's gonna be out of budget for you at some point. And I don't know how we wanna address that as a park board, but I always try to be safer
So
on
this
last-
is,
my estimates.
this is our year-to-date though, right, the 21,
Yeah,
5,
it's
7?
realized soccer, yeah.
Right, which would be her final number for
But
that soccer.
I
But
also,
the
like,
previous year,
that,
she only brought in 10,000.
yeah, that looks off,
crazy high.
it looks off to me because I wonder if,
Wonder if
we get a shirt sponsor that was like a very large to cover all the shirts, and I'm wondering if it got put in
Put in the wrong budget line.
line item.
That's fine, I think, I guess maybe just from the logic of all your fees for the entire season, if it's like within, 15 to 20% of what you had last year, that seems like a decent budget, if you're trying to be conservative, from my perspective.
I do try.
And that looks like it would force it to be crazy
I
different, but
think we
that
need
might
to
be
look
an
at
error.
that line, 'cause I think there might
Let
be
me look,
something.
I can look because all of our payments go through, Team Snap, so.
And then there's a lot of I have a handful of other ones, but there's a lot of associations to the pool with half staff, half cost. One of the items that I see is for chemicals. I'm assuming that's associated to the pool, but maybe that's associated to weed killer and things like that.
No, that.
But it's really, really high
I didn't
in your
adjust
budget.
that one, not knowing what you ordered already
Right.
for this
And
year.
that
I already filled it up once this summer, like at the beginning of the season, I already filled it up.
That would be,
Is that for the pool?
Yes.
Okay.
And we also use it for the splash pad.
I don't remember what it was, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember seeing it be
yeah, I
like
didn't
almost
adjust
double
that one
cost
much
of what I thought it would be.
Chemical supplies,
supplies,
different,
yeah. This one.
yeah.
I mean, this year we spent 1,300, and I know that maybe you're running low on everything, but in the previous years, 7,500 and 5,800, that one, I don't know, maybe.
Possibly could be reduced. I mean, cause she was probably getting ready to place an order for all the pool chemicals. I assume you haven't done that yet, or am I gonna get a bill for that?
I already filled it up once, so we'll be getting a bill from.
Okay, so there will be some more expenses coming for this budget year.
And then the only other one was real small, was the pool concession, I think was, everything else looked like it was cut in half, except for pool concession for your draft budget, even though there's gonna be a half year's expected on it, but.
So 2024 soccer on Team Snap is just under $11,000 in that.
So I wonder if some of that should have been one of the other, I'll look at that. I'll get with you tomorrow, figure out where it should go.
We can look at them on
So it's gonna be the only, I think that's all.
Hey Stacy. Just in what Luke is saying, your electric expense also would really be cut down for your lack of use of pumps for the pool. And that's a major expense in the summertime for the pool area, so, I mean, you could probably go back to last year's numbers and just kind of make an adjustment based on that, if the pool is not gonna be open at all.
Right, right.
With that, and a little bit of water use too, and it would cut that down as well.
I bet you're gonna triple your water use on your splash pad this year.
Probably.
Yeah, but you don't,
We recirculate
Not
water,
that-
but it
not
does
like that.
fill.
yeah.
I just feel like I see kids, it's just, everything's getting used so
Oh,
much in
yeah.
the park, it's awesome right now. That's a good point, that's good. Cool. Nothing that was, like
Right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars egregious.
Right.
It's still maybe makes some question as to, hey, is there an approval that wants to take place associated to $50,000 that's going to come out of what's, banked in the
Right.
Parks and Rec fund? Some of those kind of thoughts might then state, well, maybe it's only 25,000, maybe that
Right,
changes
right.
people's decisions.
The other thing to keep in mind too is, and granted, we do always wanna get the budget as tight as we can get it, but I mean, anything that's not spent, like the end of that budget year rolls into
Yeah, everything looks like it's good though besides that.
Anything else on this? Before we move into capital improvements?
I'm good.
All right. So this is the capital improvement plan for Parks and Rec. So at a quick snapshot, this is kind of financially the 5-year plan, okay? Without you guys' all extra input, okay? But this is what we've got so far, with the exception, I was looking, I think I need to move the 2 mower purchases out another year. And I'll explain why in a minute. But so what we've got here, so this is leases and debt, so this is the COP payment, okay, that we make. The pool liner replacement, like we've talked about. And of course, all of these are in the budget. This is just another way to look at the projects and the large purchases, okay? We've got the pool filter, the media replacement. So behind this page in your packet, there is a project sheet for everything that's listed, okay? So this is kind of the summary, and then there's a specific project sheet with details for every specific project. So we've got the pool filter media replacement. This is something I know Melissa's been talking about for the last 2-3 years. Updates to Al Brown concession building, 4,000. Roof replacement at the city park concession and restrooms, another 4,000. Bleacher replacement at Al Brown Fields, and then some pool lighting repair and replacement for 6,500. And so that brings the total for this year, and understand there's that flow through of insurance for replacement of the pool liner is 200,000 of that. But it brings the total for this the planned budget year at 365,800.
But only the pool liner replacement is an aspect of the negative 50,000 in the first section that we looked at, or are all of these other items a part of the budget that was
They're
shown?
all part of the budget that was shown.
Very good. So if today, everything here was accepted as is, then we would be at a deficit of 50,000 expected in the budget. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
And she
Minus those
was,
adjustments that we
if
talked
we
about.
wouldn't have had the pool liner, cause the difference in that is 50,000, she was pretty spot on her.
Right, if we didn't have that, we'd be
Right, yeah, right around where we needed
at
it.
0. So like I said, each of these items, and then planned out, like I said, I believe I need to move these 2 out, a year. So you'll see all the detail sheets, so this is just the COP payment, this first one. I'm gonna shrink these just a little bit, so they fit a little better, well, then you can't read numbers. So then this is the pool liner, and so you see there's detail here about it, the justification for why we need to do it, and then the amount, the 200,000.
And that 200,000 is just what, Westport said at first? or-
Well,
and
they
so-
estimated like 143, but
Okay.
that was their initial estimate, but you always try to buffer a little bit, cause you
Right.
don't wanna, I don't want my budget to come under if
Right.
something else were to come up that they
And that's the
didn't
liner,
encounter.
that doesn't include PVC fencing and other things that are around it as
Broken.
well, so it's, yeah. Okay, so this one is the pool filter media, so replacing the glass media, which has a 20-year lifespan, I believe, 20+ year lifespan. So that's something included in this
They don't
year's.
know the last time that it was replaced, and the current media that we have is beyond its life.
One of the filters was changed in 2008. The sand was replaced back in 2018 in both filters. So that was regurgitated out and re-put in new sand, and it was really dirty and nasty, and so it was
How
really
did they,
bad.
when they came to look at it last time and advised me about it, they said that they would have to cut a hole in the concrete to access it.
They didn't do it the first time, but then when Westport came and changed the piping, I think now you may have to actually have
Come
to do
from
that.
above.
Because the piping itself used to be all on the north side, going out off the 2 filters. Well, now they have a lot of that on the south side
Mhm.
crossing over, so to access both of the pumps, I don't think you could do it
Well,
without.
I just figured it'd be
possibly-
good, like, since they're already going to be there doing the liner, and it always costs more for them to travel back and forth, but if they already had a crew down here, then maybe we could go ahead and
At the
address
same
the
time,
media as well. Hopefully save a little bit.
there's the 2 filters that are there, the one is almost probably 22 years old.
Yeah.
The other
The
one
larger
is
one?
about 14, so. Now, don't tell me, ask me which is which.
Okay.
Cause I couldn't say right off the top of my head.
I wish I had a memory like yours, that's all.
Right.
And then here we have updates to Al Brown concession stand.
Yes, so just to bring you guys up to speed on that, the Al Brown concession has been used as storage and it's not usable as a concession stand anymore. It needs some shelving, it needs probably a little bit of new plumbing and some counter space. But, every time we host games out there, anything that's the common, where's the concession stand, where's the concession stand, where's the concession, we don't have it and we need it because kids don't have anything to drink unless it's the spigot. And it's public service, but I think it's something that needs to be brought back, especially I want to be bringing life back to Al Brown once we get those lights back up, and I want to be doing softball leagues again and tournaments, and I want to, make it a field to where it could potentially be a qualifying field, like a tournament to where it can be a qualifying tournament for the bigger softball, organizations and stuff. We might have to do some modification to some fencing, cause our fields aren't long enough, so we might have to have some fencing that goes vertical to kind of accommodate some of that distance, but I think it'd be nice to bring life back to that location.
Can I interject something in here that you may not be aware of?
No, yeah.
And anyway, at one time, we were, looking at the situation with the Al Brown concession stand. Because there's no handicapped accessibility from the field to the stand. We had considered actually, first of all, getting that done, number one, about 2017. Getting that done for the sidewalk to go up there, number one, to get people down to the actual field level, but also looking at maybe getting a portable building concession stand with a bathroom on field level. You can put it right by the hydrant. Might be able to talk with water and sewer. We had gotten that all done to where everything was drawn out. It was gonna cost at that time about $30,000 to move that down there, but it'd be all enclosed right there on the field. So you'd actually have a restroom there that would be handicapped accessible, water, and then you could actually, there's a sewer line right down there out in the field, so. I remember Jack Emery showed us that.
And to make the walkway handicap accessible?
Yes, the
Right now,
walkway-
the field is not.
Well, right, there'd be a ramp going down right from the front of the concession stand. The construction crew drew this out, so they should have plans of this.
Okay.
This was done back in 2017, where there was steps down and then there'd be a ramp that would go in between the steps all the way down. And also it was drawn up by Archer Elgin at the same time, so they both looked at it and it was already done. It was gonna cost at that time about $23,000.
So 1 million now, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but that was with Archer doing it, so if you had the construction crew doing it, I don't think it would be as expensive. Yeah, it's gonna cost some money, but it's been a big bugaboo since the fields got turned around long before Sally, long before you, Melissa, back in the 90s when they turned those fields around, and they never finished because our city administrator at that time signed off. The construction crew never finished the job.
I would like that hill to be like terraced.
It was supposed to
down
be.
So that you could have lawn chairs, like,
Yes.
and just mow it in that way, or like maybe retaining walls that would hold some of the dirt back.
And that was what it was supposed to be done. It was supposed to be tiered to where there'd be kinda like a layoff and then a
Yeah.
little tilt. Yes, there was supposed to be that done, but
That would be really nice.
when they signed off on it, the construction crew picked up and left. So it never got finished,
So
so.
what, is there any way that they're obligated to finish the job?
No. Well, 20 years ago and good luck. No, usually when the city signs off on it, that means they've accepted it's completed.
Yeah, that's why you do not sign off until, yeah.
You know, so, yeah, it was a mistake. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because, yes, I agree the concession stand needs to be at Al Brown's. When we looked at that, then looked at putting one down on the field where most people are gonna be at anyway, it would make more sense, but it's totally up to the park board. But I just wanna throw that out, that had been discussed and looked into.
Well, the one that we have right now is centrally located in between our multi-purpose fields and the softball field, and it's right in front of the park, so,
Well,
yeah, if we can make it a
But
little
if you're
more.
down on the bottom of the
Yeah.
field, climbing that hill
Oh, I know, I've
without
been down there
steps or
playing ball
anything.
and having to go to the bathroom.
Oh, I
Like,
understand.
That's a really rough climb.
And the older people can't make it up the hill.
Right.
So they just don't go.
Right.
So, just a thought, it was looked into.
What
We-
age group are you using Al Brown for baseball?
Right now I have 12U and 14U playing at it.
Is that, with the lights not working?
We got 2 games a night,
Okay.
but we could have done 3, we have to do it 2 nights now instead of 1, cause one night we have 2 games, the next night we have 1 game,
Okay.
but we end it before it gets too dark to play
Right.
ball.
How much does concession stands, lose money overall, you think?
It just depends.
I mean, you have to staff it,
Yeah,
Right.
you
I mean, I'm
basically
assuming
come
it's-
out,
it's either, if it's even
A
or a
wash,
little bit of a
yeah.
loss. Yeah. Except for, did you do okay at the pool concession?
yeah.
And that one
yeah.
was something positive, I would
It just
imagine.
depends though, cause sometimes it gets, like, I have to mess with the arrangement of how we do it, because we have a shaved ice machine right now.
Uh-huh.
And if the person is really busy, it's really hard for them to take orders, make shaved ice, take money, so sometimes I would staff an additional person. And I've been playing with adding that second person to figure out when I need to have them there, when it's going to be busy, cause I don't want to have people just sitting around either. So those numbers may not be a good resource right now, cause I've been trying to figure out what combination works the best for us to be able to max capacity of producing what we need to produce, but not having people idle.
I think I mean, the cost for that $9,000 to improve facilities,
So that
That's
includes,
needed,
that
so-
includes a double fridge
Yeah.
and a popcorn machine, like, I need to stock it with the things I need to hold the supplies in there also, so it wasn't just countertops and paint, it's,
yeah, it's good.
the refrigerator itself is almost $4,000.
But just so
So-
we know as a board, it's not like oh, this is to make money back.
Right, and if
It's
you-
just an improvement to our facilities.
Yeah, and if you happen to change it to a different location, the refrigerator,
Could be
the
moved.
popcorn
Right.
machine, some of the other
Okay.
things could be transferred to a different location.
Can we talk about that one?
This was a conversation before the hailstorm, it needed to be replaced, it was in pretty rough condition, and the construction crew had advised that it be replaced before we had issues with leaking.
But
So,
the insurance looked at it.
We didn't have insurance look at that one.
I think that's a little bit of a question, like, even, and I don't know, or, like, Al Brown was the,
There's another one.
playground
The-
damaged at all?
mm,
I know that it's in terrible condition,
It's in
but
terrible
like, it
condition
doesn't,
already.
to some aspects of the way your insurance is set, I don't know, but, you know, if you get damage to it, and you're paying for that coverage, even if the product is really dumpy, it gets hailed on, you get it fixed, so.
Right.
So with the insurance, do you know if it's for each item that has to replace, it's an additional $50,000, or for, is it?
No, the pool is 50.
Oh, the
As a
pool, is-
deductible,
okay.
that's why,
That's
oh,
our
that
Just
makes
the
sense.
pool separately, but if there was something else, then there would be a separate
That's a separate,
deductible.
correct. And the reason the pool deductible's 50,000, in the past, it's been 5, but because of the storms that have hit the Midwest in the last few years,
The insurance is great.
exactly, and so those deductibles just keep skyrocketing, so.
50,000
yeah,
is
if
a
there's-
lot more than 5.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
When,
It's a lot
that's what
less
we
than
were
2.
aware of at first was 5, but
So is
I
there-
would question honestly if that would've covered the pool liner. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of, it was a 5 across the board, but I would've questioned.
Well, I wonder, is there any way to make that adjustment monthly, like if we're making higher monthly payments for a better deductible, is that a possibility?
I've never heard of being able to adjust it like that.
Right.
That's not an option that we're
It's-
presented with, yeah.
So do you think that 200,000 or the $150,000 is a liner only insurance, or is the, you know, vinyl, the vinyl paneling that's associated with the fence, that's part of that same,
Pool, yeah.
It's part of the
audit
same insurance,
Yeah.
insurance, it's part of the same thing. So things like, was there damage to the shades on the lights that would need to be replaced anyways at the pool?
we'll check the lights.
Hey.
That's not something we
Right.
even tried, we haven't even turned them on.
And the roof, I would be shocked if the roof is okay.
I asked for them to, like, I don't know what I'm
Who's
looking
that?
at, Lloyd,
Right.
I just,
construction crew, and
I
I
mean, I
asked him, 'cause
live
I wanna
right
make
there.
sure for leaking purposes, because if we're not in there, then we don't know it's leaking.
Fair.
You know what I mean?
but even if it's not leaking, I think that, yeah, I'm not after trying to get tons of money or anything.
No,
But
but
the
if
thing
something's
is,
damaged, we
Yes.
need to.
and your insurance price is not gonna go up because you're making a claim, it's going up because the
Everybody
whole
Yeah.
Midwest, his insurance is gonna be going
I
up.
thought at one point you said that you had insurance looking at all the roofs and everything.
Not insurance, our crews
Oh,
looked.
so you don't necessarily need your crews to look at it to call the insurance to have an adjuster sent out, do you?
I don't know.
I don't think so, I think if you
Should
just.
have a roofing.
Yeah, I think it's probably advisable to at least look into that. I just, from the experience of living right here next to the park in
Yeah,
our
and what you
neighborhood,
took on,
the adjuster that came out, spent about 5 minutes, he says, every house that I've looked at in Salem on this side of town needs a new roof. And my neighbor got their roof replaced 2 years ago, and they are putting in a new roof on it again. So I don't think, I think that unless it's got some kind of crazy shingles, if they do, let me know, cause I wanna try to put that on my house.
Right.
it's called old.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I don't know how big the claim is, if it's just associated to one location, but things like it's something small, but that light fixture right behind this facility, the
Right.
shade got busted out, and it's a legitimate damage from hail.
Yeah.
The same thing, I mean, this building here,
I think,
I would be shocked if this didn't get hit, because it,
It
Jim
did, there's
did.
been a,
Okay.
yeah, the gym got hit.
Jim
so there's
does.
like, it was leaking when I
No.
came over, so.
Yeah.
no
okay.
offense to Lloyd, but I would contact a roofing company, because Lloyd's not gonna get paid to do anything, he's already getting paid, you know what I mean? His wages, but if you contact a roofing company, I mean, no offense to Lloyd, but I think you,
Well,
if you can get it covered, get it covered.
Lloyd might know, and we might be great, but it's a lot of money to have the responsibility of one person stating, I think we're good. Like, when we might be good, it might not need to do anything, but the fact that we're getting a new liner, even if we could have repaired it for 20,000, it'd probably be advisable to get a new liner anyway, it's because it's 7 years old and dry rotted,
Right.
so.
I will
Yeah.
look into the pool roof and the concession stand roof with
So Melissa,
Could you look,
just talk with Tammy and I.
Okay.
Before you.
can you look into every park's roofs? I mean, every pavilion, every concession, bathroom, everything, I mean.
It's a lot, but, and I didn't see any damage on when I've been over at the park and at the play sets and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's worth an inspection.
Awesome.
More to do, so.
It's
But it would be nice, like,
my motto.
that would change a lot of the budget
Yeah,
associated
yeah, it
with
would.
even some of these capital improvement things.
Our
Be different.
motto for Parks and Recreation is it's always something. Or the city. It goes citywide.
Okay, we're gonna talk about bleachers.
The bleachers that I actually had Justin and them remove the metal bleachers we have out there. They are, I wanna say 5 high with a wooden back on them. The shelter workshop had been the ones replacing the wood on them, and I think, before I started, the director before me got a deal on some lumber, but it was not treated lumber, so it did not sustain the weather. And it became a very large, risk to be out there, so I removed them completely from the premises. They are not a good, now bleachers, anytime you go up a certain distance high, they have fencing around them. Ours did not have that. They need to have that, if they go up so high. This is an alternative. I know a few people sit on bleachers, but a lot of people bring their own chairs, so as long as we provide some type of seating, that would be better than nothing. And I believe I have 3 sets of bleachers that I found quickly off of, the website to enter into. I haven't gone and looked at a bunch of options. I haven't asked any of the companies that we work with with already that sell bleachers. This was kind of a placeholder to be able to find some options for some seating at Al Brown.
How many sets of bleachers do you have at Al Brown right now?
There were 4.
There were 4, okay. And all 4, like, we're not anticipating wanting to use them?
I would not, me having little, like when I had little kids, you wouldn't want them going up above the first or second set because there's nothing that can prevent them
Catch
from
them
going
from going over.
underneath that. And then it goes up really high and it just has like a wooden brace back on it that kinda angles back a little bit.
Is it just the wooden brace that's the wood part? I mean, I cannot remember.
They're metal bleachers.
All the
They're-
way up,
they're
except
metal
for the
bleachers.
backing on it.
Except for the seat, the feet, and the back. Like all this.
Oh, all the framing
yeah, the
is
framing
metal,
is metal,
but
but
everything
else
that you
was
touch
wood.
is wood. Okay.
Yes, and they were completely rotted.
Did you think it's throw away or send back to sheltered workshop to attempt to
I
put-
actually contacted them to see if they could replace it, but they're so busy making birdhouses now that they're not taking any additional work.
A lot of the boards are warped too, I mean.
Yeah,
they're
it
warped,
was-
they're
it
warped.
They were a rough situation. All the bleachers we have here at the park are the
Yes.
aluminum type bleachers that don't go up really high. I mean, ultimately, I would like way bigger sets, but if you want a bigger set, you're looking more at $40,000.
Is this pretty much what we have right here over at the ball field?
The ball fields go 3 high,
They go 3.
this one goes 4.
Yeah, thank you.
But if this is something we can look at, I can look at reaching out to companies that do this.
You still have to hit a bid on it though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So-
And maybe somebody has a better solution at a lower price, which I'm all about.
Alright,
So I will check the lights, I wrote that down to do that. I mentioned before that the pool lighting, some of the fixtures are not working. And they want, I contacted an electrician last year to come look, and he, wanted to replace just the ones that are out. I would like to replace all the lighting, just to make it all the same, to where we're not doing different things with different pieces, but this is just to replace the 11 that are out. With LED. It'd be a different type of light fixture.
so this is the
This is the
lower
projected,
replacements.
yep.
And so, I'm gonna go ahead and scroll on to the next, let's see, where's that? I can't remember what we got here, concrete removal, so these next 2 pages are kind of placeholders, we don't have cost estimates in them, but to kind of, so we don't lose track of them, but these are things that need done in the future.
So Lloyd contacted me about this one, he would like to do it as soon as possible, but ball season's getting ready to start, so we won't do it yet. But for, not long ago, they put all concrete into the, down here at the parks ball fields, it's all concrete, no gravel. There's a drain that runs through them, and the concrete has shifted next to that drain and elevated a little bit, so it's a toe catch. And it's a safety risk, so we want to address that pretty quickly. Another thing that we would like to address, it's not in this, but I thought I did it, but I guess I did not. When they put the gym in and the new road in, they put, the really large rock to hold the dirt in. Those rocks get, flushed down my toilet, and they get thrown into the road very frequently, and I would like to concrete that entire curb around eventually. I wanna say Lloyd estimated it to be what, $3,000, I think?
Yeah, I thought that was done last year.
No, it wasn't, it would've had to, it was to come out of my budget, and I didn't have it yet, so. But that's something I'd like to do in the future, is concrete that whole side. Our street sweeper does come down occasionally, they can't come down all the time, but sometimes they come down and kinda help get rid of the excess rock that has been thrown onto the road.
Alright, and then the parking lot.
The parking lot at the pool is falling apart, our road is falling apart. We always want to write it into the budget, but it's a lot of money. We talked about doing a third of the parking lot ever so often to, and like, not just, asphalting it, but concreting it. But I've reached out to a couple of concrete people, and I'm this I wrote last year.
Yeah, again, this is a placeholder for the future. So, we talked a little bit about repair and replacement of vehicles and equipment. So this is the list of all of the vehicles and equipment that the Parks and Rec department has. So you'll see here, we have the year of it, the make, model, VIN numbers, I mean, look at the whole, how many, and remaining life. So we did have our city mechanic kind of go through each piece of equipment, look at them and give an estimate of remaining years of life. And so this is the budget year that we're planning right here. This is where we take, so perfect example, right here's one of the mowers, okay? So 3 years left, this is why I was saying I needed to adjust those two numbers for mower replacements out. So what I've done is if it's 3 years of remaining life left on this piece of equipment, I've divided that by the 2 years prior and said we need to set aside that much each year to have the 20,000 to replace it. So this year, you'll notice I'm not planning for there to be another 10,000 or another piece of money. We know we may have to add some to it. I put that in there for inflation, right? So if we know this mower would cost us 20,000 today, and we save up 20,000, we know we might not have quite enough to buy it, but we're gonna have the bulk of it. So we leave that final year at that price, that way knowing we may need to add some to it as we get closer to it. Again, this is a planning tool to help us make sure we're, planning for eventual replacements of the equipment and things that we need. So, what you'll see here is at the bottom here, this is the total we set aside for each year. And I told Stacy as we were coming out the door, coming here, oh, I adjusted that again, so our numbers won't quite match. I wanna say about $2,000 off. What she has in the main budget is about $2,000 higher than this total. So you'll see each year, this is what we need to put aside to make sure we can replace what we have when it comes time. So.
And we wanna add to that, like pool liner, pool pump, playground
Yes.
equipment, like.
We need to add
start
facilities to
building
that,
those
right,
things
this year
into
we're just
that
trying to
budget.
add vehicles and equipment, so each year we'll be adding pieces into that budget to what's
So
that.
traditionally, how it's happened is, hey guys,
We need this,
I got a year,
Hey,
next year,
this
we
year
have to have
we
it.
need-
yes,
Yeah,
And then it just happens that we
budget,
hit it in
yeah.
the budget at full cost,
maybe,
at a guess at it.
or maybe not, or if you get a
Interesting.
grant, right, if you don't get a grant, like, that's,
Yeah.
So
this is
this
a
money
better-
will then come into some kind of marking in the budget that'll, we won't see this reflected in, hey, you have your surplus of 600,000. Well, you do, but you've got 100,000
but it's
is,
earmarked
in the
for something else.
We're setting up a replacement fund for parks.
which is where
So,
this
and-
will go, it'll
Okay.
have its own line item.
and we'll still see that, okay?
So this capital improvement is being added to the reserves that was started, what, 2 years ago?
Last year,
Last year.
yeah, current
So
budget
is
year.
this gonna be added to those reserves?
They're separate accounts. So so here's how to think about them. So the true reserve accounts are the, oh crap, okay? But it's oh crap, the hail just hit, okay? That's a true reserve.
Okay,
Okay, you can't plan for it, it's acts of gods, it's things that you can't plan for. The February 2021 utility event, okay? That's a reserve.
okay.
A repair and replacement is a known, we know that the pickup that we bought for parks this year won't last forever. It's gonna have a lifespan of 15 or 20 years, and so we're gonna set aside so much every year between now and then to know that we'll have the money in hand to replace it. Does that, so that's the difference, one's repair and replacement,
Well,
in our budget, it's called depreciation and replace.
that's fine.
But
But I
that's-
didn't see anything in this year's budget for the other
But
reserve.
the 25% reserve is in our operating account balance, right, so you have to deduct, out of that. So
For
basically,
parks, yes.
yeah, so what, 600 something thousand in their account right now, 25% you need to,
It's not accessible to like,
Right, you
if we
need to
had a
have
grant out there that was 50-50 to
Right,
go try to
we
do a
need to
major project, we can't
that
use
25%.
that 25%, we need to
Right.
keep that off the side.
Right,
Okay, is there any other aspects of that $670,000 besides the 25% that's associated to reserves? Like that 25% is for the OCRAT fund.
right.
Is there any other earmarked money of that
Mhm.
670,000?
no.
Okay, very good.
I mean, other than, hold on, we do,
Sorry.
no, we have that in the operating budget, so our annual COP payments, but that's in the operating budget, that's in the leases and debt. so that's in our regular budget.
Fair, yeah, very good, very good, thanks, yeah, that makes sense.
Do you have another question, Stan?
No,
So the repair and replacement or depreciation and replacement is new that we're adding into the budget this year. And so not just for Parks and Rec, but citywide, that's something we're
So, yeah.
doing, so.
We'll see that then reflected in the budget in a similar manner as the COP, it'll be an expenditure then, or are we gonna say, hey, we have 25% of this money it's the oh crap fund, but then there's whatever this month, sorry, it is what it is
I know,
now.
that's what I said.
So this money that builds up, are we gonna have to be told, hey, just so you know, 8% this year, next year it's gonna be 10% of that, or
So
whatever.
Stacy, can we set up those funds within Parks and Rec?
You mean the
Create another
replacement
line
fund?
item.
Okay,
Yeah, it's gonna be a new fund number.
so, right, so it'll be a separate fund number within Parks and Rec.
Okay, but we'll see that like the COP,
Yes, you'll see
like,
every year.
okay,
So
very
it
good,
won't, it won't be an expense until you replace or buy that piece of equipment.
yes,
So
very good.
it'll be a transfer is what it'll look like, so, let me go find it. It shows as other uses at the bottom of the budget piece, let me find it.
Other sources, other uses. okay.
Yes, that's what we're talking about, so this down here, this other sources and other uses, it'll be at other uses, cause we'll transfer it from the main fund into that repair and replacement fund.
Okay, so right now, those $25,000 that are in other uses, was that the funding for the,
That's the
Emergency
CIP,
fund?
no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no,
That's a payment for the property.
Huh?
Right? Is that
Yes, yes, it was.
yes,
That's the payment for the property.
is the last one.
And then the
Yes.
last one, yes.
that's the last payment for the old fairgrounds.
oh, very good.
And then this, though, right now, this is the CIP, right, the projects?
Right, that we have listed for this year.
No, the 38, that's what's going to the replacement fund.
Oh,
gotcha,
right there.
Gotcha,
Right.
yes, yes, sorry.
Perfect.
And that's the number I said we were off by about $2,000,
Right.
yeah, this one right
But that number right there is a part of that negative $50,000 deficit.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
very good,
Yes, it
okay, so really then, if I wanna understand, if somebody comes up and says, hey, I got a deal for you, 90-10 grant here, we're gonna do something crazy for you, and I need to know, we wanna know how much we can do,
Right,
it's 75% of whatever that number is.
Right, so
Not the-
168,000 is your reserve.
Thank you.
25% of your prior year expenses is what it should be. I should have noted it on there and I'm sorry I did not, but 168,000 is your 25%
Right.
of your reserve. So deduct that out of your 620,000, that's what you would have
Right.
money to
so this
spend.
is your reserve, right
Okay,
here.
is it 25% of the reserve, or is it 25% of the or the revenue
Prior year expenditures.
in expenditure? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay.
No, I'm glad you're asking these questions.
Yeah.
Anybody else follow all of that?
I'm good with the budget as it's presented. I think that from the major task, I think I do think it's pretty conservative, but also you can kind of see 2 or 3 years past that,
Right.
you know, the funds are pretty high coming back into the budget, which is, I'd rather be in that kind of scenario. But I do think one of the major things is, man, trying to get a list of what park assets in
Oh,
the
yeah.
parks and trying to figure out the insurance
So,
aspect of it.
so another thing that, and we'll have to see how the rest of the budget process goes. I mean, so we're still, I mean, this is first budget session with you all, we've still got all of the other boards and committees to go through this process with. Okay?
Yeah.
So before we get to a final budget that we would present to the Board of Aldermen for approval. One of the things though, that we've talked about, we haven't included it in the budget yet, we didn't include it in the preliminary budget that we shared with the board, but was a maintenance person. Okay, cause right now, we don't have anyone who's maintenance. We have Lloyd's crew, which is our construction crew, and who does sidewalk construction and
Spread
whatever,
everywhere, yeah.
whatever other construction project we throw at them, and they're all over the place, but their job isn't maintenance. So what we would like to get to is have a dedicated person who, they're the ones staying on top of, did the HVAC filters get changed? And did this one's roof, was installed 20 years ago, we probably need to be thinking about, that should be, on our list of things to get done. And ideally, with that person, we would do the same thing we're doing with vehicles and equipment with buildings and facilities, so that we're planning again, that's kinda, we're working our way there, so let's have to see how things shake out.
I got a question, so if we approve this budget as is, right, so that, I mean, all the CIT, what are the
If
CITs
you guys,
or?
CIP.
Yeah, CIPs,
So here's something that I'm, since I know you guys are gonna talk about your 3 to 5 year plan. Okay? I don't know if you wanna get through that conversation, and then if there's things you think need to be worked into the budget, we do that. Or if you approve the budget separately, and we can do it with some of the questions that came up about, hey, this one looks high, or we can do amendments, you can approve it with amendments.
yeah.
So it's kind of up to your comfort level and what you wanna look at.
So I believe with our 3 to 5 year plan, we're gonna have to have
More than one
multiple
session,
meetings.
I would agree.
And, it's already, 6:41, and, I'm trying to be respectful of everybody's time. Mine too, I got 4 kids at home, and so, we might try to get to some of that at another date, depending on how everybody feels. But, so, I don't know, would it be okay to maybe try to set another meeting?
That's
approve this
entirely up to
budget?
you all.
Because
I'm
I
assuming
think
with
I would
your
like to see what the
calendar.
numbers look like after you, speak with the insurance people,
Okay,
and see if those numbers change much,
gotcha.
unless they're already written in with the, which they're not. But anyway.
Which insurance?
The,
companies are you talking about?
like, once you talk to the insurance for the roofs, for the
Gotcha.
pavilions,
Have
for the
roads and stuff
concessions,
inspected. Okay.
playground equipment,
Gotcha.
I feel like once we have those conversations with those people, the numbers could change.
Gotcha.
And so, unless we can approve it with contingencies, but that'd be
It's just
kind
hard to know what that contingency
of,
is.
exactly. So, in my opinion, and I'm open to others, that we table it for another day, pending time. When does this have to be approved by? Your next Alderman meeting?
I mean, aldermen have to approve the final budget by the end of June. Okay, the sooner we can have things wrapped up for them, the better, because that means staff's not scrambling down to the last.
Mhm.
you know,
Would it be possible to have the conversations with the insurance company, and we just kind of plan on meeting here in a week and a half, 2 weeks?
We
I mean,
won't
it's
know
fit-
until we,
Would that be sufficient enough time? Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know when they can look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
If insurance does cover those things, that would be in our favor, it would not be anything to the negative with what the budget is already showing.
well, unless there are things that we don't have upgrades planned,
But we
right.
did just say you don't sign off on it.
Right.
So,
Well, I'm just saying you could always do budget adjustments is what.
you can, but I hate to start talking budget adjustments
Okay.
before we've approved the budget.
Okay.
Just-
Just trying to figure time-wise.
Right, right.
And I might be asking a lot of the board, and I'd have to see what we have available for this room, or we can meet anywhere. But if we, just plan on meeting, is it too much to ask, maybe every other week on a Monday or something for the next month or so we can hammer some of this stuff out? Cause there's a lot of stuff that, it's on here that
I
needs to
have
be.
ball games starting June 3rd, every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Okay, well, we can adjust around your schedule. And we can have that conversation, but when does it start, next week?
No, the 2 weeks, the 3rd.
Would anybody be available next Monday?
It's a holiday.
It's Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah, I won't even be here.
I have the 29th and the 31st open,
Say it again, sorry.
the 29th and the
Hold on,
31st.
We have a capital improvement meeting.
And
That's
I
what we
have something
scheduled.
the 29th. I have something.
What about, next Friday?
The 24th? Or that's this Friday? The
That's
31st is
the
next
31st.
Friday.
This Friday's not good?
What are you trying to get out of?
I'm just trying to get to where
I
we
mean,
can have conversations
But once,
about.
are you talking about
Yeah, I
3
mean,
to
that,
5
and
year
that's
plan stuff?
not, that's important that we move forward and we
So really,
plan,
Because I
but.
think,
if that's not it, then the only question is the insurance question and inspection of other facilities,
and I think
right?
you
Right.
could approve, cause if she says, no, there's nothing else, and it's like, well, that's, okay, you did due diligence in finding. If you find that there's stuff, then it adjusts the budget appropriately,
How
and
about, okay,
We still approve that.
here's a thought, and maybe this is where you're going, Luke, maybe it's not, okay, so, depending on how you feel about the budget this evening, and I'm not trying to force you guys into making a decision. If you're comfortable with it, you could vote to approve it, and then if we do find out something through insurance that would change it, then we come to you guys and we try to figure out a meeting date.
That's what those contingencies could be,
Right.
based on whatever the
The
insurance
findings.
company finds.
Right.
Because that might also, skew our decision whether or not we wanna take it out of general revenue or change expenditures,
Right.
adjust the expenditures.
Right.
So I mean, cause I mean, if we take 3 or so of these, what are they called? CIPs.
Capital improvement.
Yeah, CIPs, and I mean, that'll cut out at almost $15,000 or more. So it just cut, I mean, it's not hard to make, so we could make a decision.
Well, it would
you know,
take out
but-
2, it would take out the roof replacement at 4,000 and potentially the lighting at 6,500.
Right.
Of the ones that are already listed.
I mean, it's obviously not just my decision. I mean, if we're, as a board, comfortable with, signing off and making adjustments later, then that's what we'll do.
I think.
We don't have to meet in the next couple weeks, but,
I think that, no, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, I don't know that, well, anyway, go ahead.
I think that I'm comfortable with the budget, contingent on the insurance company not finding anything that's gonna put us
But if there's a
backward.
significant change,
Right.
then we would
Right.
call a meeting.
I think that's how I feel as well, as long as due diligence is done to make sure that those things, and I think,
Yeah, but.
probably from the whole city perspective, you
Yeah.
want to know that.
I'm not trying to say anything, but due diligence would be another word for accountability.
Right.
And so like, if we didn't sign off on it tonight, that would,
I agree.
I feel like that would be due diligence, or for another word, accountability. So it's up to, it's obviously not my decision. I mean, I just don't know that I'm interested in spending another 30-45 minutes tonight to try to get that done, and then, everything else. And that's how come I was trying to set another meeting in the next couple weeks. But we could do that via email anytime, so. I think right now we need to, discuss or whether or not we wanna go ahead and sign off. And so if we do sign off, that means all these, CIPs are gonna be done as well, correct? So if we sign off on this budget,
Well,
that
it's in
means
our
we're.
budget, so
Yeah,
guarantee
but
it
it doesn't- yeah, it doesn't mean it's
done.
gonna-
But it's approved to
It's
go,
approved to get done.
Right.
Well,
If possible.
if the aldermen approve
Aldermen
it.
approve it.
Right.
I think that, so from my perspective, I think with the action associated to going and reviewing, not necessarily just from a city perspective, but I think it's probably heard from, or not from a park perspective, but from an entire
Citywide,
city
right.
perspective, and that should be heard by aldermen as well. When the budget gets approved, make sure that we've taken advantage so appropriately to the hailstorm.
Right.
And if we haven't done that completely, we should make sure that we've gotten that done. And from that perspective, with us just giving guidance that says this is an outline, and the past 3 years, we've not been under, or we've been conservative over 100,000 every year. I'm pretty good with the idea of the $50,000 that was associated there at the end. If they find stuff in the insurance or not, I think that this is an appropriate budget. If it was our approval, I think this is my opinion, if it was my approval of the budget today, and it was solely me, and there was no other wicket to jump through to go to the alderman, then I do think that it would be appropriate for us to hold accountability to make sure that everything was reviewed in city parks. But I think I think we can make the comment, and this is how I'll say it. I make a motion that we approve the budget as it sits with the action item to go review hailstorm damage to be reported back up through the aldermen in their final approval of the budget.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
So any of this kind of stuff though, would come as an amendment to it,
Right.
but it would come out of, like, when we say, hey, this is what we're executing on, this is whatever grant we're chasing associated to that fund, then we're gonna come back, request amendment to say, we're asking for $250,000 to be moved out of just general fund and be stated
To
that
be
this
the
is where
match
it's
for
at.
the grant, right.
Thank you, okay.
Yeah.
So,
We can come back, we can, I'll get with Melissa and see what's a good date for her in the next couple weeks.
Can we at least go over my wish list, just so people can be thinking about?
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
And I know, like, I brought this stuff for the LWCF grant for the soccer stuff, and I didn't bring it, but I made a map of the property that we have, that I know people want to turn into something. And I have some ideas for that also, and I kinda marked it out as, tennis / pickleball, pavilions, playground, restroom, parking, pavilions, again, so it'd be like another park, but not as big as the park that we have, but it would, be accessible. We don't have a lot of stuff we have a really large retirement community here, and I know that oftentimes we get really wrapped up in kids and youth and wanting to make sure that we are getting these kids engaged, but we're missing out on a whole demographic that our parks need to be accessible to. And a really big sport, and it's very popular even here, in the gym, is pickleball. And even when asking for, tennis experts to come down and do tennis lessons, or I asked for, a college tennis coach to come down and teach a camp. And he said, I won't come teach tennis, but I'll teach pickleball. He said, tennis is so hard and so precise that most people don't pick it up because it takes so long to get it. He said, pickleball is sweeping the nation and it's becoming the #1 outdoor recreation sport. I think our courts need to be adaptable and accommodate that. All ages can participate in that. So one of my visions for that property, not to say it's yours, but just the one to have, is doing, because the condition that ours is in, they say why would you resurface it? Because it's just gonna keep doing what it's doing, cracking and falling apart. If we could start from nothing and build something, that would be my dream, is to build a complex that would be dual. But we could also add some playground stuff and some really nice pavilions that really bring that community up, not just some metal structures, but maybe some really pretty ornate cedar structures that are visually appealing, with a restroom kind of located in the middle, and some really good design sidewalks to each location, so that people have some concrete space to get their steps in during the day. So that's my vision. I can send you the map I have of it, but that would address the first one, the tennis courts. Our skate park, it's getting pretty old, and I know the people that are using it would like to see some updates to it. I've been in contact with the company. It's not cheap. It's very, very expensive. One feature is $6,700, and that's to replace the one that is the concrete blocks. So that's something to be thinking about if we want to update that in the future. Paved road and parking lot, that was listed on my CIP. New Al Brown sign to match the park. We have a really nice sign out front that the park has. Out at Al Brown, we have an old wooden one that needs to be repainted that I'd like to get to really soon, but I'd really like them to coordinate with each other so that people know that they're under the same entity, because the park is in the city limits. It's Al Brown City, it's very edge of city limits. It's right there. So I want people to know that we're all under the same umbrella. So I mentioned earlier the Al Brown fields modified for qualifying tournaments. Our fields, like I said earlier, are not long enough depth-wise, so you'd have to go up in fencing. They make different things to where you can raise like a mesh fencing system up for certain tournaments, so it's not up all the time, or you can put chain link up to the extent that it needs to go.
On that, are you talking baseball or
Softball.
slow pitch?
Like, yeah.
So, I believe that our fields are 300 feet, playing pretty often, state tournaments, national tournaments, world tournaments. The longest field we'll ever play on is 300 feet.
Some, who did I
if
work with
you-
before, they told me
The
that it
right
would not
field
go off
line
time.
on the middle field is 15 feet too short.
Yeah.
It straightens out because the baseball field was there.
Have they, when was that? Have they updated the rules depending on each
So
sanction?
that, they said at that time we needed to have a 22-foot high fence,
At that
20 feet
time.
down at that time.
So it might benefit you to look into the new rules.
But you can just move the fence back now, you have no baseball field.
Yeah,
You can
right.
actually get the actual curvature correct.
yeah,
On
The
the
back-
south.
On the south field, that's right, cause it straightens out, it just flattens out. That was due to
Okay.
the baseball field being there.
Okay, I thought it was the north field, in that back corner.
Is the south field fence 300 feet though? Because according
It's
to.
300 feet all the way to that place,
Mhm.
and then it flattens out, it goes straight.
and it goes straight, yeah.
So it gets, see, down the line, it's not 300 feet,
Mhm.
it's only 285.
Okay.
But the sanctions might have changed. I know that, played sanctioned tournaments where right field's 225 or 189. And I believe, when we played Worlds in, Texas, that they had one field where 285 was in center.
Oh, wow.
So, the rules have changed significantly
Okay.
from,
But sometimes, Caleb, they change the type of ball that you use, so it doesn't fly.
oh no, they get harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get harder every year.
And, you know, I know,
But yeah, for sure.
but they have changed those, for some of the smaller fields, they've changed limited flight ball.
Okay, so the next one, sorry, just moving on for time. We need to upgrade the playground equipment at the Al Brown playground. It gets used a lot and it's a very old set. Updating Al Brown concession, that's in the CIP. I ultimately would like to have shade protection over the park dugouts here. It's not just shade protection, but it's safety protection for flying balls and foul balls that are hit and kids aren't paying attention. And then I'd also like to do shade protection over the spectator bleachers. We have a really nice setup here, and it'd be nice if it was set up really well to where our younger divisions, we could be hosting tournaments here. And that would help our economy also because they're eating here and they're shopping at Walmart and all of that stuff. So that would be a good way to bring in some revenue eventually. Develop old fairground property, pickleball courts, concrete the rocks between Armory and the ball field. A request I have quite often that we're taking out were the concrete steps coming down from, the Armory to the blue field. It is handicap accessible, but, we get requests all the time, why were the steps taken out?
They weren't
supposed to be. They were supposed to be there, they took them out and never put them back. But that is, a big thing that we need. Removing the tire chips from the playground surface and making it the same rubberized surface as Billy's playground. Those rubber chips get strung out all over the place and it becomes a huge cleanup constantly. Additional cameras in the park cameras that we have currently are located on the pool house. We'd like some that are closer to this side and being able to see some of the pavilions and some of the stuff that goes on because of the vandalism that happens would be nice. Concrete the batting cage bases. Right now it's gravel and weeds are crazy all the time. We'd like to concrete that. Scoreboard upgrades to all fields. Al Brown does not have scoreboards. It'd be nice to have upgraded scoreboards here. Fence caps on T-ball and Al Brown, and then the park fields that down here will need new fence caps soon. Concrete additional stretch of the creek to allow for more parking near these fields. Parking here is crazy. If we could, cover the creek to where that pavilion is, like we did over by the T-ball fields, that would allow for quite a bit of additional parking there.
DNR won't let you do it.
DNR won't do it.
We already looked into that.
Could we
Matter of
section
fact,
it off?
if DNR would've caught us when we did the other one, they wouldn't let us do it either.
I wonder if there's a solution to.
There's no solution. DNR says you can't access the creek, cause you'll limit the creek, and you'll hurt the little critters that are in the creek.
Well,
by putting that-
I'd like to concrete the creek.
Yeah, I understand,
Mowing it is.
But we looked at that, especially on the curve where it was eroding.
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
they
it's
said
widening.
And they said you cannot put concrete there to even prevent the erosion,
Okay.
so. Just for your knowledge.
Thank you. We'd like to eventually add streetlights within the park, so the road going into the park, it would be nice to have more lighting throughout there. I think it would help prevent some of the vandalism that we have, cause it's pretty dark back there at night. And adding shade trees to Al Brown, which I'm so thankful, that we've been able to add so many trees to this park, but I think it'd be nice to build, it's so windy over there too, that I think if we had some kind of tree block to help, kind of take some away some of that wind would be good too. We'd like to paint the basketball courts, add some lines, do all that, and eventually, if we didn't have a tennis court there anymore, we could change that to basketball too, potentially. And I've had requests just recently, just this weekend, about adding additional seating around the splash pad.
No way.
Anybody wanted to tag me in it and call me and text me and message me on the weekend. But,
It's a pretty good list. I mean,
and there are
I
more, like I think
yeah.
of stuff, like I always think of more things as I'm walking around or driving around, but there's stuff that has not been maintained or been able to be maintained because this park tax is just now starting to build up to where we can say we have an issue, we need to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Used to, we'd have to have a budget that would come out of the city budget that would fund parks, but now that we have that sales tax, it's starting to accumulate and we can start doing some upkeep and,
Right.
and stuff to
Right.
maintenance wise.
I'm genuine when I say that. It's a really good list, and for me personally, a lot of these things line up with what I would like to see as well, and I'm sure a lot of this stuff would also line up with a lot of our board here. In fact, I would suggest everybody go home and make their own list, and then we kind of put it together, and we kind of prioritize things, as to what's the most important need to be done right away, financially, so on and so forth, so. Thank you for sharing this. This is really awesome. And, again, I would suggest the board do the same. I will, go home and make a list as well. So, and we will, I will get with Melissa and we'll try to get another meeting on the board, to rediscuss our 3 to 5 year plans. And, I think that this helps, so. Is there any, so we've already approved the budget. With contingencies, I guess. And so, review of the 3 to 5 year plan, I think we're gonna push that back to our next meeting. And that way we don't have to, fight for time with the budget and director's report. I think it will be a little bit more helpful and meaningful there. So moving on to, is there any other order of business? Anybody would like to discuss? Okay. Alright, we're gonna, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Alright.
Aye. So moved. Yet another successful Parks and Rec board meeting.